Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Nikki, aka The Lonely Academic, coming to you with videos about books, academia and mental health. I haven't been on here for about 4 years, so sorry about that. Back then I had about 3 viewers, so hi to them and to any of you who are new here today. Why this channel? Frankly, because I love to turn my special interests into unpaid jobs. I'm an avid reader, I study ancient Egyptian tombs, and I'm in the middle of a mental health journey. So I must be able to entertain you with at least one of these topics. Today I want to talk to you about fall books. Not your average Jane Eyre and Frankenstein, but archaeological fall books. You see, when the leaves start to fall and the weather turns colder, archaeologists come out of their burrows to start making plans for their winter excavations in Egypt and the Middle East. This has been going on ever since white people started excavating in these countries, which was around the second half of the 19th century. Now, I love studying the history of Egyptology and early foreign travel to Egypt, so I have a mixture of fiction and non-fiction for you to enjoy today. One of the most famous travelers in the Middle East was not an archaeologist herself, but she ended up being married to one. She's quoted for the saying, "An archaeologist is the best husband a woman can have. The older she gets, the more interested he is in her." I'm of course talking about the famous Dame Agatha Christie. As a 17-year-old, her mother Clara took her to Egypt while recovering from a bout of illness. Back then, the family was in financial difficulties after Agatha's father had passed away. Social rules required her to have her official debut, which often involved a costly season in London. It turned out to be cheaper to have her coming out in Cairo while they rented out their family home in the UK. In Cairo, young Agatha had less eye for the medieval mosques and ancient monuments and more for the young men at the parties she attended 5 times a week. It was only later, after her divorce from Mr. Christie, that Agatha fell in love with an archaeologist. She met him at an excavation in Ur, modern-day Iraq. This was Max Mallowan, the assistant to Leonard Woolley. Juicy detail, Agatha was 39 when she met the 26-year-old sweetheart, and they married 6 months later. Her most famous novel, of course, is Death on the Nile, recounting a cruise taken by Belgian detective Hercule Poirot and a cast of questionable characters. There are some famous film and TV renditions of the novel, my favorite being the one with David Suchet in the role of Poirot. Next up is Murder on the Orient Express, which begins with one of the most iconic lines for setting the stage in any book. It was 5 o'clock on a winter's morning in Syria. Unfortunately, the novel doesn't take place in Syria, but rather on the train's return journey from the Middle East through Eastern Europe. The train runs aground during a snowdrift, a murder is committed, and a trail of red herrings is supposed to lead Poirot off the actual culprit, or should I say, culprits. Next is Appointment with Death. This novel takes place first in a hotel in Jerusalem and later at a traveler's camp in Petra, Jordan. It involves a tyrannical stepmother who is of course mercilessly killed under the hot desert sun. Agatha Christie wrote one novel that is actually set in ancient Egypt, and that is Death Comes as the End. We know she was friends with Professor Glanville, an Egyptologist at University College London, and she dedicates this book to him. The novel is set during the Egyptian Middle Kingdom and is inspired by real historical documents such as the Hetepherakhty papyri. It teaches us that ancient Egyptians had as much domestic struggles as modern-day people. This is what Agatha's stories thrive on, and I think she did a great job in capturing the ancient Egyptian setting as well as the timeless subject of family dynamics. Next, I can wholeheartedly recommend this so-called archaeological memoir, Come Tell Me How You Live. It recounts the travels by Agatha and her husband in Syria and Iraq. Tell is a wordplay on the ancient settlement hills that are scattered around these countries, that are called tells or tepes or combs depending on the language. To me it was so interesting to read about excavations in the 1930s, in part because so much has changed in the area since then, but also because certain aspects of archaeological life haven't changed at all, which could be a topic for another video. If you want to read more about Egyptian excavations during the 1930s from a female perspective, I recommend Mary Chubb's Nefertiti Lived Here. This is the enjoyable memoir of a secretary of the Egypt Exploration Society who is sent to Egypt. There she becomes actively involved in the excavations at Amarna under John Pendlebury. The daily goings-on at the site, the discoveries they make, and the challenges they face are wonderfully told. An author I love almost as much as Agatha Christie is Penelope Lively. She wrote many novels, both for children and adults, but her most famous work is Moon Tiger. This follows Claudia Hampton, a historian and journalist in her 70s, who reflects on her life from her deathbed. She looks back on her childhood and the period during World War II, when she was living and working in Cairo. Of course she falls in love, and with Tom Southern, an English tank division captain. Their relationship is central to the novel and beautifully portrayed. It reminds me of The English Patient, but from a female perspective. Penelope Lively is so apt in her description of Egypt during the 1930s and 40s because she grew up there as a young girl. This is recounted in her memoirs, Oleander, Jacaranda. Her childhood and the environment she grows up in are wonderfully portrayed, and a remarkable world is sketched of playing in the garden, going on trips, and summers spent in Alexandria. A stark contrast to the dreary British weather. If you are nostalgic like me for a time and place in which you weren't even alive yet, this is a book for you. All of the books I mentioned I can wholeheartedly recommend. That's it for this video. Like and subscribe for more content about books, academia, and the crazy creatures that live in your brains. Bye!